This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast with Todd DeWalt, providing the tools and resources to grow your leadership skills, grow your business, and grow your income. Now let's get started. Welcome everyone to episode 15 of the Construction Leading Edge. My name is Todd DeWalt. This is my podcast, and my goal is to provide the tools and resources to grow your leadership skills, grow your business, and grow your income. Today we're going to go inside your head, something that may be a little scary for some of you, and we're going to look inside under the hood of what's going on in there and talk about something that has been a real game changer for me. I've found that the mindset stuff is as important, maybe more important than even technical skills for a lot of folks. But we're going to talk about some stuff that has been very possibly holding you back. I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've found that have held me back in the past in my career, and talk about how we work through these things that are called limiting beliefs. But first, I want to read a couple of emails that I received just recently. Just came in today, as a matter of fact. Rob sent me this email and said, Todd, I'm very impressed with the podcast. I get a lot of info from that. I do drywall. He's a drywall subcontractor in Utah. And I'm always looking for improvements. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Rob, I appreciate you sending that email in. And I've got one more here from Gerardo. And Gerardo says, Todd, I'm not sure if you get to read these emails. And actually, I read every one of them, Gerardo, so I appreciate you sending it in. But I'm just starting college. I worked in the field 2 years after my high school graduation, got interested in becoming one of the leaders to improve the industry, and hopefully I'll be a project manager someday. Gerardo says, I appreciate your efforts for providing such valuable information. I truly believe the education portion of construction is so limited and needs to be improved. If there's any way I could help you out, that would be great. I would like to hear more about the Leadership Accelerator. So Gerardo, yes, you can definitely help out, and I appreciate you sending that email in. And if you're curious about this Leadership Accelerator, I'll be talking about that at the end of today's episode. So let's just jump into this, and we'll talk about limiting beliefs. First, I want to tell a story. A few years ago, I went to the circus with my kids. I have 4 kids, and they love the circus. And I noticed at the circus that there's an interesting way that they restrain elephants, if you want to call it that. And the way that circus elephants are contained is they have a rope around their ankle tied to a little wooden peg or something stuck to the ground. And it's obvious to me that the elephant could just break the rope or pull the peg out of the ground. So when I did some research on this and to figure out why this works, I found out that the way that circus elephants are trained is they're caught as baby elephants when they're very small, and at that size they put a chain or a heavy rope around their ankle, and then they tie it to a very sturdy anchor. They tie it to, say, a fence post or a telephone pole or something that there's no way they could move. And of course, the baby elephant doesn't like that. The baby elephant resists, kicks, and fights, and does everything they can to get away until eventually they just give up. They realize there's no use fighting this rope. They're never going to get away from it. And that belief that the baby elephant has stays with them all through their life, no matter how big they are. And that's why large elephants, several tons, can be restrained with a rope, because they believe the lie that they can't get away, that rope will hold them. It's that this limiting belief that they had from youth when they were really small is still with them. So the problem is they're believing something that's not true anymore. The circumstances have changed. And what we're going to talk about in this episode today is the fact that most of us have gone through stuff in our lives, either early in our careers, maybe all the way back to our childhood, And something happened in that time that caused a limiting belief to set in, and it's still there. And the problem with these limiting beliefs is just like the elephant is stuck and being held back by a rope, we're also being held back by these limiting beliefs that really shouldn't be holding us back. So what I want to talk about are 4, 5, 6, 7 keys. I'm not sure how many there are, but just talk through some things about limiting beliefs. And then at the end of this, we're going to talk about how to reverse a limiting belief. I've gone through this process myself, and it has helped me, and hopefully it will help you as well. So let's get started. So first we'll start with the definition of a belief. If you look in the dictionary, at least the online version of the dictionary I looked at, you'll see that belief is defined as a feeling of being sure that someone or something exists or that something is true. Again, a feeling of being sure. It's a certainty that someone or something exists or that something is true. It's also a state or habit of the mind in which confidence is placed in something. So a belief is something that you're sure of. It's not something that you question. It's not something you wonder about. It's something that you are certain about. Just like a little kid is certain that Santa Claus is real. There are beliefs that we have that we are certain are true, but in reality they're not. Next, limiting beliefs are like lenses that we see the world through, and they determine our actions. So imagine, some of you probably wear glasses, maybe contact lenses, or if you're fortunate enough to have 20/20 vision, then perhaps you wear sunglasses every once in a while. And chances are at some point you had your sunglasses on or your contacts in or your prescription glasses in and you didn't realize it. You just get used to your glasses, your sunglasses, your contact lenses, and you don't even realize that they're there. And that's how these limiting beliefs are. They are there and they are filtering the way that we see the world, but we don't even know in many cases that they're there. We don't know we have these limiting beliefs, which makes them extremely sneaky and very difficult to deal with. Chances are maybe you're thinking right now of some beliefs that you have. More than likely you're thinking about some other people. You're looking at somebody else and, oh yeah, well, that guy that I work with, now I know what's wrong with him. So let's not point fingers too much just yet. So limiting beliefs are these lenses that we see the world through, and they determine our actions. So here's a few limiting beliefs. I'll throw out some examples here that I found. The first one, life is hard work, stress, and aggravation, punctuated by brief periods of happiness. Another one is you have to work hard to make money, then you have to work hard to keep what you have. Some others that may hit a little closer to home is I'm not smart enough, I'm not old enough, I don't have enough experience, I'm not outgoing enough, I'm not confident, I'm not fill in the blank. There are also the ones that start with I'm too. For example, I'm too young, I'm too shy, I'm too introverted, I'm too loud, I'm too quiet, I'm too laid back, I'm too energetic, I'm too outgoing, I'm too much of an engineer, I'm too much of a field guy, I'm too much of an office girl. You get my drift. Some other limiting beliefs about other people that we deal with sound like something like only fill in the blank people succeed. For example, only cheaters succeed. Only lucky people succeed. Only people that went to college succeed. Only people who didn't go to college succeed. Only people from California succeed. I never get a break. Nothing good ever happens to me. Then there are specific limiting beliefs about people in leadership. For example, good leaders don't get their hands dirty. Good leaders don't fraternize with people on their team. Good leaders never ask questions. Good leaders always know what to do. Good leaders always have the answers. Good leaders aren't uncertain about anything, and good leaders aren't afraid of anything. those are some examples of limiting beliefs, and hopefully you can see that these limiting beliefs are lenses that we see the world through. So you can imagine if that's the way people are seeing the world, that worldview is going to determine the way that person acts. So if you believe that you're not old enough for something, then that will determine your actions. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. Let me give you some examples of my limiting beliefs that I've had to either work through voluntarily, or in some cases I've been forced to work through involuntarily. So one of mine was, I can't sell. I'm not a sales guy, I'm an engineer. I have a civil engineering degree, and I've spent about 17, 18 years in construction, project management, construction management. So my belief was, I'm not a sales guy. I don't know how to sell. I'm a problem solver. I'm whatever, but I'm not a sales guy. Another one of my limiting beliefs that I had up until a few years ago was, it's all about business. We're here to make money. We are here for results. We're here to get projects done, get executed. Personal relationships are secondary. Personal relationships aren't that important. We're here to get stuff done. If we have fun, if we like the people we work with, that's nice and all, but the relationship stuff is not important. Networking is not important. It's about getting stuff done. Another one that I still deal with is whenever I meet somebody or I go into a new situation, my going in position is, there's this little voice in my head that tells me that these people don't necessarily like me and I have to prove myself. So I go into new situations feeling like I am below par and I have to prove myself, that people don't trust me. Not sure where that comes from, but that's a limiting belief that I have to work through. So the next thing about limiting beliefs is that they color the actions of others, and they provide a nice narrative about their actions. So these limiting beliefs, if you imagine them as these yellow sunglasses that you're wearing, or whatever color sunglasses, some weird color of sunglasses that you're wearing, they color the way you see the world. And I want to talk specifically about how these limiting beliefs color the actions of the people around you. Okay? So, let me read something to you. Just as we have limiting beliefs about ourselves, we also have beliefs about other people, which can limit us in many ways. If we think others are more capable and superior, then we will not challenge them. If we see them as selfish, we may not ask them to help us. So think about this for a minute. Think about the people in your organization, and I want you to think about the people at both ends of the organizational chart. Think about the person at the top, the CEO, the president, the owner, and then think about the person at the opposite end, the lowest paid person on your team, the laborer, the janitor, the whatever that person is, and think about how you view the actions of those people. When the CEO does something, you probably look at it differently than when the janitor or the laborer does something. See, these limiting beliefs that we have, they color the actions of other people. So, for example, you're probably much more sensitive to something that the CEO says than something that the janitor would say. Have you ever done that? Have you ever heard somebody says, maybe it's just a side comment, an offhanded comment, and someone in leadership says it, and you just can't get it out of your mind. What did they mean by that? Were they talking about me? What was that all about? And chances are you don't spend as much time worrying about side or offhanded comments that someone below you on the organizational chart says. That's because we have these beliefs about people in leadership, people who are above us, and those beliefs about people who are above us are different than our beliefs about people who are below us. So what happens is we often guess what other people are thinking based on our beliefs about them. So something happens, they make we see something that's observable, or we hear something, so then we guess what they're thinking based on our beliefs about them. And these guesses are often wrong. We may believe that someone doesn't like us when in reality they don't really have an opinion about us. Maybe they're completely neutral, or maybe they do like us. We guess at their thoughts, and then we will go even further than that and speculate about what they're going to do next. And in my experience, that speculation is completely wrong, and not only is it wrong, but it's completely futile. It's completely a waste of time. So here's an example. About a year out of college, I'd started as a field engineer on it was about an $8 million college library, and I was shooting line and grade, running a foundation crew, doing layout work. And after about 6 or 8 months, there wasn't enough field work to do. It was wintertime, so I got the call that I was going to go into the office and work in estimating. Well, I had a belief about estimating that the only reason you went into the estimating department was because you couldn't hack it in the field. And on top of that, the person who was in estimating before me, whose desk I took over, had been fired because she had come in from a job site, was brought into estimating, and then lasted a few months, and then she was gone. So there I was in estimating, thinking I'm on the chopping block at any point, and had all these other. Being in estimating was not the thing to do. No offense to you guys if you're estimators, but in that company, being in the field was better than being in estimating, at least in my opinion. I didn't want to be in the office. I wanted to be in the field. So after a few months, hadn't been getting a whole lot of feedback. Seemed like things were going okay. I had to go get a bond signed by one of the vice presidents, a guy named Bernie. So I walked into Bernie's office, handed him the document, and was about to walk out. And he said, hold on, Todd. Close the door. I want to talk to you. And I thought, oh, man, here we go. This is it. Head's on the chopping block. I saw it coming. I'm the guy that came in from the field to estimating and got fired. And he said, you know what? You're kind of deceiving. You're kind of deceiving. And I thought, oh my gosh, this just get it over with, man. You don't have to insult me. He said, you came in from the field. You don't say a whole lot. You don't draw a lot of attention to yourself, but you're doing a really good job here in estimating. And we'd like to offer you a full-time position to have you stay in the estimating department and not go back out to the field. And I was just stunned. And I realized that I had this limiting belief, or I had this belief, these lenses that I had been looking at the situation through, and those lenses were coloring the actions of the people in leadership around me, and I was completely wrong. I thought that they were looking for reasons to get rid of me. I was speculating about their motives, and in reality, they wanted me to stay full-time. So I ended up going back to the field. I respectfully declined that opportunity, but that was a very valuable lesson for me about how my limiting beliefs color the actions of other people. Now here's the interesting thing about limiting beliefs is that they don't exist in reality. They are completely a mental fabrication. These limiting beliefs, these lenses that we look at the world through, they do not exist in reality, and other people can't see them, but we can't see around them. I'll say that again. Limiting beliefs, the limiting beliefs that we have cannot be seen by other people, but we can't see around them. Nobody else can see them, but we can't see around these limiting beliefs. So here's an example. A few years ago, there was a guy I was working with, and he had this belief that customers did not like him. And he had a belief that confrontation, any kind of conflict, had to escalate into yelling and screaming and that sort of thing. So he was afraid to call customers because he was afraid that he was convinced that customers didn't like him, and he was convinced that every time and in fact, not just confrontation, every meeting was bad. Meetings were bad, customers were bad. So if there was ever the slightest issue that came up, he was afraid to call the customer because he was afraid of customers, and he was afraid of meetings because he thought meetings meant confrontation, yelling, screaming, throwing of drawings and binders. So as you can imagine, that caused some issues. What it led to was it was kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because whenever an issue did come up, he was afraid to address it, so it just got pushed off, and then it got pushed off, and it got pushed off, and got pushed off, until finally there was an eruption. So this limiting belief, in a way, brought about the result that he was trying to avoid. So we're going to talk about this, how limiting beliefs can sabotage us here in a little bit. The next thing about limiting beliefs is they're like invisible walls that often conceal some of the best parts of life that are available to us. I'll say that again. Limiting beliefs are like invisible walls that often conceal some of the most abundant, some of the best parts of life available to us. And they often often line the edges of our comfort zone. So think about that. Imagine a mental image of your comfort zone where you're right in the middle of it, you're all cozy and comfortable. These limiting beliefs are often right at the edge of your comfort zone. And in order to get outside of your comfort zone, you have to go through or go past or go over these limiting beliefs. So here's an example. I used to think, as I mentioned before, that personal relationships were not that important at work. That we were there to get results done, we're there to put numbers on the board, we're there to execute projects, and if relationships got damaged along the way, that's just the cost of doing business. A few years ago, I got to work with a guy named Greg, and this was in the sales job that I ended up with a sales gig for about 6 months, which addressed some other limiting beliefs. But the thing I learned from Greg is that Greg was an engineer. Greg had been in construction, in operations. He ran a large company in the Northeast, and he was, through the course of his career, he was now in a straight-up sales and business development role. And the thing I learned from Greg was the power of building personal relationships with people you work with. Greg was the best I've ever seen at taking care of people, of putting the needs of other people first, of building relationships and maintaining those relationships. And I learned by watching him how much these people cared about him, and how good it was to have those kind of relationships. I learned that you could have really strong relationships in business, and in fact, maybe the relationships are one of the biggest benefits to being in business. And we may touch on that here in a little bit. But that limiting belief that I had about personal relationships was a barrier. It kept me away from the abundant part of business, which is to have strong relationships and be friends with the people that you work with. Now, the next thing, I mentioned sabotage. Now, that sounds very devious, but limiting beliefs can lead to self-sabotage. So the reason that is because I'm no psychologist, but in simple terms, limiting beliefs are part of our subconscious brain that as we mentioned, we don't know it's there, but this subconscious brain's job is to keep us out of pain and to keep us in familiar situations. So it's about pain and familiarity. When our subconscious brain sees a situation that could lead to pain or unfamiliarity, it will prevent us from going there. It's a protection. It's a self-defense mechanism. Just like we have, when we're born, we have a fear of loud noises and of falling. Every other fear, every other limiting belief we acquire is what I'm told. So how do these limiting beliefs lead to self-sabotage? Think about, here's a couple of examples. First, imagine someone has a limiting belief that says close relationships are a source of pain. Maybe they've gone through a divorce, they've been abused as a child, and they have come away with this belief that close relationships are a source of pain. Or perhaps they have a belief that if people get to know me, really get to know me, they'll think I'm a fraud. And that's actually a pretty common belief. If people really get to know me, then they'll think I'm a fraud. Leaders deal with this a lot. So if you think that close relationships are a source of pain, or if you're afraid that if people get to know you, they'll think you're a fraud, what you will do unconsciously is keep people at a distance. You will keep people at arm's length. You won't let them in. Or you will lash out at people unconsciously to force them away. I've seen this in several people. It's not pretty, but they've gone through stuff in their past, and they force people away. They cannot maintain a relationship with people. They subconsciously sabotage the relationship, and they don't even know they're doing it. Now let's think of a couple of other business examples. Imagine you have a limiting belief that says, I can't sell. I can't manage people. I can't lead a team. I could never work for a big corporation. I could never work for a small business. I could never have my own business. If you have this belief that you can never sell, never manage people, never lead a team, if that scares you, then when presented with opportunities to sell or to manage people or to lead a team, your brain, your subconscious brain will say, it will throw up red flags and say, that's unfamiliar, that's scary, let's make sure we don't go down that road. And what does this self-sabotage look like? It looks like when there's an opportunity, let's say it's an interview for a job that you're scared of. If you were interviewing for a job for a sales position, self-sabotage could look like you show up late for the interview, you don't show up at all, you do things during the interview process that are weird, you say the wrong thing, you get all freaked out, and you ruin the opportunity. Here's another limiting belief that can lead to self-sabotage. I could never earn that kind of money. Whether you're employed by someone else or you have your own business, there's a comfort zone with the amount of money you make that you, for the most part, stay in. And you say, I could never earn that kind of money. So when opportunities come along that could lead to wealth or at least increased salary, more benefits, more money, whatever the case may be, you'll shut them down because in your brain they are impossible. You just think, that's impossible. There's no way. It's too good to be true. There's no way that's ever going to work out for me. Nothing that good ever works out for me. It's just impossible, so I'm not even going to try. Now, here's another one that leads to self-sabotage. Specifically, if deep down you believe that wealthy people are greedy, evil, not to be trusted, if you have some negative association with wealthy people, or people that maybe they don't have to be wealthy, but maybe they're the people above you in your organization, or people who make more money than you or have something you don't. If deep down you have a belief that someone who has something you don't have is evil, greedy, not to be trusted, then your subconscious brain will not let you get into that situation. When you have an opportunity to get a promotion or start your own business or make more money or whatever the case may be, your subconscious brain will not let you get into that situation because you're afraid of it. So Let me just recap some of these keys or highlights on limiting beliefs. First, a belief is a feeling of being sure, of being certain that someone or something exists, something that you've placed confidence in. Limiting beliefs are these lenses that we see the world through, and they determine our actions. Limiting beliefs color the actions of others and provide a narrative about those people's actions. Limiting beliefs are a thing of our mind. They do not exist in reality. Limiting beliefs are like invisible walls that often conceal some of the most abundant and the best parts of life that are available to us, and they line our comfort zone. And lastly, limiting beliefs can and often do lead to self-sabotage. So they are dangerous and something that needs to be dealt with. So you may be wondering, all right, now what? So I've got these limiting beliefs. I've got these things running in my head that I hear, and now I know they're limiting beliefs. So what do we do about them? Well, I've got a 6-step process here to reverse limiting beliefs. I've used this process successfully, and I can tell you it works if you'll do it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick one limiting belief, one I can't, I don't, I never, one about other people that sounds like leaders don't, leaders always, something to that effect. I want you to pick one limiting belief that you want to reverse, that you feel like is holding you back. So here's an example that we'll work through. My example is I can't do sales. I'm an engineer. That was a limiting belief that I had to work through. Next, I want you to list the negative consequences of holding on to this belief. So list the negative consequences of holding on to this limiting belief. So for my example of I can't do sales, I'm an engineer, the negative consequences are not being able to sell anything limits my career. If I'm limited to doing something other than sales, or if I completely avoid all sales opportunities, that puts limitations on my career. Secondly, people in sales have higher earning potential. In a lot of companies, the people that make the most money are people who are bringing revenue in. They're the salespeople. Thirdly, people in sales have a strong network. By nature, they are talking to lots of people outside of the organization, and if by avoiding sales opportunities, I am limiting my network, and I'm limiting my future job opportunities that can come through the network. So step number 3, let's recap. So step number 1, pick a limiting belief. Step number 2, list the negative consequences of holding on to this belief. If this is getting a little woo-woo for you or a little whatever, just stay with me. Listen, I'm not a woo-woo guy at all, but I'm telling you, this stuff's a game changer, and you need to work through it. If you do work through this, you will see the benefits. So step 3 is you need to decide, what does that new belief need to be? If you have a bad belief that's negative, you need to decide, what does the new belief need to be? So for my example, I used to think I can't do sales, I'm an engineer. My new belief is going to be engineers are good at selling. Engineers make good salespeople, right? We're good at problem solving, we're very detailed, we're very thorough. Maybe we have pocket protectors and calculators, and we'd rather be in a closet somewhere solving problems, but we are good, we make good salespeople. Secondly, building relationships is important. Remember I said that I had trouble with building relationships. I didn't see the value in that early in my career. Building relationships is very important, and it may even be the most important thing in business. Okay, step number 4. Set some BHAGs in your life. You need some BHAGs in your life. What's a BHAG? It's a big, hairy, audacious goal. And what will a big, hairy, audacious goal do for you? It's going to force you up against these limiting beliefs that are holding you back. So, go build your network. If you're an introvert, decide that you're going to go build your network and get more people in your network. Build the relationships. In my example of I'm not a sales guy, I can't do sales, then I'm gonna go ask my boss, hey, can I go on some sales calls? I'd like an opportunity to do some sales. I want to go to some conferences. I want to go meet customers. I want to take clients out for lunch. Do some things that are outside of your comfort zone. And in the process of getting outside your comfort zone, you'll be forced to go through these or go over these limiting beliefs. All right, so we've picked a limiting belief. We've listed the negative consequences of holding on to this belief. We've decided what the new belief should be. We've set some big, hairy, audacious goals that will force us to go up against this limiting belief. Now, the next thing is step number 5. Write down the situations that tend to make you revert back to the old belief. Write down the situations where you get uptight, you get anxious, you get scared, you get nervous, and because when those things happen, that's when we revert back to the old mode, to our default mode. That's when these limiting beliefs kick in. So write these situations down and then be ready for them, knowing that whenever you get into those situations, that's when you're at risk of slipping back into the limiting belief mode. Step number 6 is you need to remind yourself of the new belief consistently. Review this list of the situations that cause you to revert back to your old mode consistently, but you got to keep it in front of you. This is a habit. This is a belief that has developed that you've gotten accustomed to. These are glasses you've been wearing for years, maybe decades even, and it's going to take some time to get over these. So what you need to do is put a reminder on your phone, put it on your task list, put it on your bathroom mirror, put it on the refrigerator, keep it in front of you, and that's going to be one of the ways you consistently remind yourself of the new belief. So for my example, it's engineers are good at sales. Maybe I put a reminder on my phone. Maybe I send myself a recurring email every day at 7:30 a.m. I get an email that says, hey, Todd, engineers are good at sales. Now go kill it. Your friend, Todd. Whatever you need to do, but keep it in front of yourself. Remind yourself of what that new belief is. So now, if you want help reversing a limiting belief, this may sound a little crazy, but I want to help you on a one-on-one basis. If you want help reversing a limiting belief and you're serious about it, I want you to send me an email at todd@constructionleadingedge.com, and I will get on the phone or get on Skype with 10 people who send me an email with this information. We'll leave it open, say, for the next week or two, and I'll pick 10 people, and I'll get in touch with you, and I'll schedule a time to get on the phone with you or get on Skype for about 15 minutes and help you reverse that limiting belief. Now, why would I want to do that? Well, one, I want to help you. This is why I do this podcast, is to help people. 2, I believe that limiting beliefs are a big hindrance in developing leaders. In order to move forward and get to the next level in your leadership, you have to deal with these limiting beliefs. I don't think you can move forward without dealing with limiting beliefs. And third, I want to do research and find out what are the common limiting beliefs in our industry so I can help people on a bigger scale. So help me help you, okay? So send me an email, todd@constructionleadingedge.com. Let me know what your limiting belief is, and I'll schedule a time for 10 people that send me an email in the next 2 weeks after this thing comes out. So that is the talk on limiting beliefs. That's a 6-step process for reversing limiting beliefs. This is by no means an exhaustive coverage of limiting beliefs. This is a rabbit hole that is very deep, but my goal is to at least turn the light on in the room, so to speak, so that you can see some of these things and begin to address them. So if you have questions, you want more details on this, go to constructionleadingedge.com/015. This is episode 15, so constructionleadingedge.com/015. And there'll be some information there, some show notes, some details, maybe even some other resources to go along with this as well. Now, I want to shift gears away from limiting beliefs, and I want to talk about a piece of software that I've been using for about 3 years now in the business that I run, and it has been a game changer. So if you need help tracking the time from your hourly employees, if you struggle with getting text messages or emails, or maybe you're using paper, of all things, using paper timesheets to track your employees, you need to check out T-Sheets. You need to go to constructionleadingedge.com/T-Sheets and sign up for a free trial. This software is beautiful. About 3 years ago, tracking timesheets was absolutely kicking my ass, and this was a game changer. Before T-Sheets, we were spending 20 to 30 man hours a week tracking time, and it was still getting screwed up a lot. We had people's checks that were messed up, prevailing wage stuff that was messed up. It was a nightmare. On this side of T-Sheets, I spend maybe 10 minutes a week looking over the reports. It is beautiful. One of the most beautiful things about T-Sheets is there is no upfront purchase. It is pay as you go every month. People can clock in via text message. They can clock in via Twitter. I don't even know how that works, but you can clock in via Twitter if you're overseas. It has a pretty slick smartphone app, at least for the iPhone. I think they have an Android app as well, but it is so smooth and it is so beautiful, and the people at T-Sheets are really cool to deal with as well. So check it out. constructionleadingedge.com/T-Sheets, no dash, no dot, TSHEETS, and sign up for a free trial. Do it for yourself. Track your own time. Check the reports. It is a thing of beauty. Now, a couple of things coming up. I want to let you know about upcoming podcasts. We're going to stay in the psychology department here for a little while, and the next episode of the podcast is going to be on emotional intelligence. We're going to talk more about relationships and customer experience and the importance of emotional intelligence. I'm telling you, this stuff's a game changer, and that's why we're going to have an interview that is specifically about emotional intelligence. I'm still working on setting up an interview for the ladies. If you're interested in hearing from one of the most successful owners of a woman-owned construction business in the Southeast, I'm working on getting that interview set up. She's a very busy lady, but trying to make that happen for you. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the program that I'm working on, what I'm now calling the Leadership Accelerator. I had referred to it as a leadership boot camp, but I think accelerator sounds a lot cooler. So the Leadership Accelerator is going to be a way for construction leaders, maybe young construction leaders, maybe you're a guy or a gal just out of college, maybe you're in your early 30s, maybe you're in your 40s. It really doesn't matter how old you are. But if you want to learn some leadership basics and go deeper on some of the stuff that I've talked about in this podcast, and you want to go to the next level, then you need to stay tuned for this Leadership Accelerator. It's going to be online, video-based, probably going to be a go-at-your-own-pace type of a training. And I'm planning on incorporating a cool follow-up system to help students put into application what they learn in the courses. Because if you're like me, you've been through a lot of training, been through a lot of courses, but 2 weeks later, you've forgotten most of it, and you're probably applying 5% of what you learned. So I really want to focus on application. I really want to focus on giving you some tools and tips that you can put into action and then help you apply this stuff right out of the gate. So that puts this episode in the books. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/015 for the show notes. Don't forget to send me an email if you want help reversing those limiting beliefs. And hey, show me some love on Twitter @conleadedge. Send me a tweet. Maybe I'll get back with you. Have a great rest of the week or 2 weeks, however long it is going to be until we talk again. And keep up the good work. Bye, guys.